Hey, what up everybody, steviebreech coming to you. In this video is to be talking a little bit about TNA and TNA Impact. Yes, I know it's now Impact Wrestling, but just like when WWF switched to WWE, it's hard for me. I still call it WWF every once in a while, so Impact Wrestling will be TNA for the foreseeable future to me. But all in all, a lot of people always come to my channel and say that my videos are always bashing on TNA, but honestly, I've watched it for the last few weeks, and it's been a real good show. I mean, honestly, you got to give it up to, when they say that wrestling matters, they are giving us more wrestling, but when I look at it, Raw has really stepped up their game as well. I mean, the last few weeks has given us a lot of wrestling action and not so much of the dreaded promos and backstage skits and segments. And so, yeah, I got to give it up to them as well. Maybe it's TNA that actually pushed WWE to get to this point where they're giving us better matches. But all in all, getting back to TNA, TNA is honestly giving us good stuff. And if you go back and watch this stuff, it's been really good. The show started off with a Angle and Hogan promo, which I hope is honestly leading us towards a match. They were saying that Hogan said that Angle's never really proved himself to him, making me think that he's never gotten in the ring and had a match with him. You go back to King of the Ring 2002, I believe. They actually did have a match. This was during Hogan's comeback. It was right after Angle's match where he lost his hair to Edge. I believe that was a SummerSlam match, but Angle at the time was sort of being that comedic sort of wrestler at the time, and he was wearing the wrestling head gear, and he had a toupee on and underneath. You can remember it that near the end of the match, Hogan actually got that off him, and Hogan put it on for some stupid reason. It was a funny spot. The match isn't great. It's good, but hopefully, honestly, Hogan wants to go out of TNA. He wants to leave TNA, have his last wrestling match. He wants to do it one more time because he sort of promised Dixie Carter and TNA that when he got there, he would take him to the wrestling heights, and he thinks that he hasn't got him there, and he honestly thinks that if he got in the ring, he's the one thing that can put him over the top. I'm not 100% sure that the Hulk Hogan wrestling is going to equal buys. It didn't really equal a whole bunch of ratings. It didn't conquer the WWE when he got in the ring the first time when it was I believe it was AJ Styles and Ric Flair against was it Abyss and Hogan, something like that. In that tag match, and I don't really think Hogan's gonna equal a whole bunch of people actually buying this. They might find a way to watch it, but it's not going to equal money in TNA's pocket, so I'm not sure. But honestly, if he wants to go out with one real good wrestling match, if you think about it, like The Undertaker, he has the Undertaker streak, which he has won 2 titles, one in a good Batista match. But if you look at that streak, you get a lot of names in there, like Jake Roberts, like Superfly Jimmy Snuka. You get A-Train, you got Big Show. Big Show before he was even like Big Show, he was on the decline when he really wasn't getting a push at the time. A lot of guys in a lot of matches that didn't really matter. He's got 19 wins, but if you look at him, there's only 2 or 3 of them that really stand out as big wins for him. You got, and then he stepped it up. You got Shawn Michaels twice. He got Triple H for a second time. Triple H was one of the matches that I thought was good, by the way. One of the best Triple H matches, and as well as one of the best Undertaker matches from the WrestleMania before. But these last 3 have been real good, and they've really stepped up his game. And you sort of you put that on his Hall of Fame resume, that WrestleMania undefeated streak. It means a lot more than it did 3 years ago to me. But I mean, if Hogan wants that for his resume, that one last match, to say that I was fucking Hulk Hogan, and I was one of the best wrestlers in the world, and you don't really look at his career on the decline from the last big matches. I mean, honestly, one of the last big matches you can think of for Hogan is probably the Orton match at SummerSlam, I'm guessing. But I mean, he's had other stuff, but nothing really as big, I can say, and that was a few years ago. But Angle is that type of wrestler that it can go physical, but he also is very clean at what he does. He doesn't hurt a whole bunch of people, so he can actually move with Hogan around the ring and not really beat him up too bad. So that is actually moving towards something that I think is going to be really good. If you look at the mid card here, it is packed full of stuff. Like with the X Division didn't really get the buy rate that they were hoping for, but they still really look like they're actually going to be building it. It has a pretty good, build right now with Brian Kendrick as the champion. You had Alex Shelley out there saying he wanted his shot. I don't really get the whole Abyss thing. Hopefully, with him failing one more time, hopefully he doesn't lose a spot in the group, but hopefully he doesn't. hopefully he finds his way out of the X division because there's a whole bunch of other guys. Austin Aries working his way into the mix is also really, really good. One of the main plots of the whole Impact was freaking um, Bully Ray and Mr. Anderson, Mr. Kennedy, whatever you want to call him, sort of mixing it up and they sort of got into it. They don't really like each other. I think they're both fighting for that top dog spot, sort of. Um, but it was Bully Ray that sort of honestly sort of like stepped up and made him look like he was going to be the guy that actually stepped up and fought Kurt Angle. And then he just said that he was, the one that was going to speak up and appoint, Mr. Anderson to go into the ring. So they booked this match. It's going to be Anderson against freaking Kurt Angle, and then Sting, who we all think is the network executive. He puts him in a cage match, and then he sends Fortune out there, and Fortune's supposed to surround the ring. And all in all, like I was saying, like going back to the whole Sting thing, we'll conquer that first. I've made a couple of videos where Sting has actually, stolen the whole Joker gimmick, but X-Pac tweeted, and it is 100% true, that if Sting wasn't 100% good at what he was doing right now, this whole thing would suck so bad. But I got to give it to Sting. It looks like the actor, that played the Joker in the movies actually is playing on Impact. Sting is 100% committed to this, and he's doing it 100% perfect. A lot of people are sort of comparing it to that Jim Carrey mask sort of voice to it, but I think he's nailing it. I think it's 100% good. I honestly don't really see how this is going to change into the Sting the way he wrestles, but it makes TNA Impact. It makes it a whole lot. It makes it watchable, so it makes me sort of like, I feel bad that I went on that big Sting rant about him stealing this gimmick, but it makes TNA watchable, but honestly, I don't know how it's going to affect his wrestling style or anything like that, so I'm not 100% sold on what they're doing, but I got to give it up to them. And what they're doing is really, really good. Going back to the whole Bully Ray thing, they had freaking Fortune surround the ring, and their one main job is to keep everybody out of this match, because normally a steel cage will confine everybody to inside the ring, but for some reason everybody knows that Immortal's going to find their way into it. Honestly, if you go back into the history of steel cage matches, that's the one reason why they started this, is to keep everybody out, and you can finally settle your big feud in one match, and only the guys that are in there are supposed to be in there. But anyways, they all got Fortune down there. Immortal comes running down there, and because they outnumber the Fortune guys, Bully Ray finds his way getting in there, only to be there to screw over Mr. Anderson and sort of give us, we got a finish. Angle got the 1, 2, 3. He won the match. But we didn't get a real finish. That's why I was saying that, if you're going to say wrestling matters and give us wrestling matches, give us real finishes, or, at the end, we sort of feel cheated at the end. Even though Angle is a babyface, Angle goes over, it leaves you with a bad feeling in your mouth the whole time. And as well as leaving you with a bad feeling in your mouth the whole time, I feel really, really bad for Mr. Anderson. Damn it. Mr. Anderson is his right name. It's Kennedy was his name in WWE, whatever. That's always going to confuse me, just like I was explaining the whole TNA, WWE, Impact Wrestling, WWF thing, but whatever. This guy was a heel when he got there, and he got way over, and for some reason he was so over and loved by the fans they made him a face, and he's gone back and forth. It seems like he's flip-flopped almost 100 times. Just keep him in that tweener role. There was no real reason for him to go out and join Immortal. Immortal's a group of real heels. He was fine by himself. To put him in there made him look weak, and then with him in this whole big feud with Bubba Ray, it makes him look even weaker. He's good by his own. It's like if they would have built a stable around Stone Cold Steve Austin back in the late 90s and made him the second fiddle. I mean, it's Stone Cold. Mr. Anderson, he is the freaking he's the main deal. He should be the guy that holds the title, and every time he holds the title, he drops the title in a couple weeks for no reason. He needs a real long streak. That's one of your main guys there, except for Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is a guy who can't win. He can't buy a win in the Bound for Glory series for some reason. It makes no sense at all. But the Bound for Glory series is looking really good for some reason. Devon is way up in the rankings. He's getting some sort of a push, I guess, but most of his wins aren't even on TV. They're house shows, but it's good for him because, Bully Ray's getting a big push, and you would sort of think when these guys break up, one guy's going to get buried, and it would be Devon. But if you look at the standings, he's actually up there, and he's doing real well. Another thing to look out for would be, Daniels and AJ Styles were talking about something back in the back, saying that if you thought about what I told you last week, and I racked my brain, and I can't think what the hell they talked about last week, but I guess he's asking for a rematch. I thought that was going to be on this Hardcore Justice pay-per-view, but Hardcore Justice, they're booked in a three-way match, or a six-man match, whatever it is. A six-man tag. It's Immortal against Fortune, and both of them are in there. So I guess we're looking for one of them to turn heel. Hopefully it's Christopher Daniels, because mostly I think AJ Styles needs to be solidified as the main event good guy of TNA. For some reason, he got to main event, and he won the main event of the Destination X pay-per-view, and he's going to be buried in this sort of, I don't even know if you can call it a semi-main event tag match for the next pay-per-view. So honestly, like I said, I have my problems with TNA, that there's some question marks. It really didn't make sense, but honestly, it was a good show, and I wish more people would watch it out there. I don't really know if I would buy pay-per-views, or I always find a way to buy the DVDs, and people make fun of me because I don't really watch them that much. But it's what I collect, so just leave that alone, I guess. But I'll find a way to get it. But I don't know how this really generates money, but as well as there being a wrestling show on Thursday night, besides for Superstars, which nobody watches as it is, more people need to watch TNA, because the Impact show is good, and it's enjoyable and watchable, and I think more people should check it out.